Hello everyone, welcome to Keyboarding Online, and today what I'm going to do is give you a basic overview on how to use the GDP program online. Now first of all, you'll notice that I'm in Blackboard and I'm going to click on Unit Content and then Unit number 1. And before I forget, if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to the recorded lecture on getting started with Blackboard, I would recommend that you do so. Now I'm going to click on Getting Started with GDP. When we click on Getting Started with GDP, you will notice that here is our website address, and you should be able to click on that. In the previous recording that I recorded for Getting Started with Blackboard, I didn't have it quite set up with the URL, so now you should be able to click on it instead of having to copy and paste it into your web browser. Now, depending on what class you're listening to, as far as what class you're enrolled in, this will probably look a little bit different. I'm doing the basic recording right now for this class, but I plan on using it for other courses also. So what I would do is I would click on my URL, and then it would bring me to the website. Okay, you'll notice right here it tells me new GDP student. I have a registration code. You only have to register this one time. So after you register, you'll find the information, of course, inside your box kit that came with your textbook. So I'm going to click up here and I'm going to type in my username, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, and now we're into the we're at the actual website for GDP and we've logged on. Now I want you to notice over here that underneath unit number 1, this is part 1 and this is part 2. But we're going to, as far as the way our units are set up in Blackboard, they're different than what they show here in GDP. And what I mean by that is, if you turn to page 3 in your textbook, you look at the top of page 3 and it says Unit 1 and then Lesson 1. What I want you to focus in is, when we do Unit number 1, it doesn't mean that we have to do everything that's underneath this Part 1, okay, for the first week. We need to be focused in on the lessons that we're going to be doing. For an example, for Unit number 1 in Blackboard, for our class, we're going to be doing lessons number 1 and lessons 2, lesson 1 and lesson 2, and we're also going to be keying our information sheet information in Blackboard itself, and you'll upload that in the comment section. Now, just to show you what I mean, I'm going to go back here, and if I click on unit number 1 again, I'm going to go down here to assignments. Okay, this lesson 1, as I had mentioned in the Blackboard introduction, okay, on the previous recording, this lesson number 1, and these are the exercises that you're going to be doing. 1A, so if you look in your book on page 3, 1A, the home position, 1B, the space bar and enter key, and so on. Lesson number 2. And then here's the information sheet that you're going to make sure that you key in Blackboard under the appropriate section for unit number 1, which will be your name, your program, your telephone number, and the school email address. Okay? Now, getting back to the actual GDP program. Right here, if you see a circle with a check mark in it, that means that I'm working on this one, and it means that I've completed lesson number 1. And then see the little green check marks next to each one, because I've gone through and practiced this. Okay? So I'm going to click on, first of all, it's lesson 1, and it tells us our goals. Lesson 1, the home keys. Now, it says, click an exercise in the menu to the left to open to begin your work, or click Next. So I'm going to click on Next, and what comes up is Lesson 1A, the home row position. I'd have my textbook open, I'd look, and I'd read the information in there. It's the same as what's on your screen, and it tells you to place the fingers of your left hand lightly over the A, S, D, and F keys. So here's A, S, D, F. And then your right hand, you're going to position each finger on J, K, L, semicolon. Now this is one of the times that I let you notice, you look down at your keyboard, because we're going to keep our eyes on a copy as we practice. But see how the G and the H are covered? Also, can you feel your fingers on the FJ? There's like a little raised bump, and on the J key, those are your enter keys. Okay, I'm going to click Next. And now we're at where it says Lesson 1B, the space bar and enter keys. Again, notice in your textbook so that you can practice from your textbook. Okay, here's our space bar, And what we're going to be using is the space bar is because we're going to be spacing in between words and after punctuation marks. You're going to press the space bar with a downward and inward towards your body motion of the right thumb. Go ahead and practice that. All right, remember you're going to have your fingers on your home row and practice the space bar. I'm going to click next. Lesson 1C, practice the home keys. Now this gives you a chance before you even get started with the regular exercise. If you want to practice the F key, you can look in your textbook, say to yourself, this is what we call a letter for letter keying approach, where you say either the letters to yourself or out loud for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show you what I mean. I would press the F key, F, 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 J, 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 F, F, space, F, F, J, J, space. See how you can practice it even before you get into the exercises? Okay, I'm going to click on next. And here's an example of the letter for letter keying also. So what are we going to do? It tells us right here, page 4. We're going to turn to page 4 in our textbook. I'm going to practice this exercise just to demonstrate how you can hear the rhythm as I practice and also the letter for letter keying. ASDF space, JKL semispace, ASDF space, JKL semispace, ASDF space, JKL semi, enter. Now you're going to reach for the enter key with your right little finger, okay? Make sure that you don't stop and just press it. You need to reach with the right semicolon finger, okay, and practice that. So you may want to practice that reach. If I noticed I was having problems, I'd stop right now and I'd say enter, go back to my semi, enter, 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 and that way you can learn the reach. Oh, I want to show you what it was like to make a mistake. See where it says strike the correct key to continue with the exercise. SDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semi, enter. Now I didn't hit the enter key, so notice how it stayed up there. Press the enter key. ASDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semi. I knew I made a mistake. I could kind of feel it, so I know I need to press the semicolon. Okay, and then enter. ASDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semispace ASDF space JKL semi, enter. Okay, now you can go back and practice this exercise again before you go on. What you can do is, notice how I maneuvered my mouse over here. If I wanted to go back into this exercise, I could say okay, I can first of all click next, and then I can say, okay, I want to try that again, all right? And then I'd go right back into the exercise. That would be before you'd go on to the F and the J keys, for an example. Okay, here's my F and J. F, J. So I'd practice this. I'd have my fingers on my home row, and I'd say to myself, F, 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 space, J, 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 space, F, F, space, J, J. See how you get the idea on how to say the letters and spaces? Okay, now I'm going to click on next. Well, actually, I think I'm going to go right into the D and the K for demonstration purposes. D, 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 K, K, K. Okay, and then I'd practice the exercise. I'd press next, see? Now I'm going to, for demonstration purposes, though, I'm going to go right into the S and the L. S, L. Again, S, L. So I'd practice it by just pressing on my keyboard, S, S, space, J, whoops, I didn't want to say J, L, L, space, S, L, space. But if I did say J, I probably went with my finger to the J key, okay, because I'm getting used to saying them to myself. All right, and the last one, the A and the semi. A, semi, A, semi, A, semi. You get the idea on how to do that? Okay, now we have the backspace key, and you can go ahead and learn about the backspace key. Click on next, and it gives us a little example here on what to do. Word building, you'd say, oh no, where do I find this information? Well, you're going to be practicing from your book, and you should have been doing that all along. There's our instructions over here. What page are we on? Page 5, just to make sure we're there. Okay, page 5. Word building, then you'll practice those, okay? I'm going to click on next, and here's our 1 minute timing. Now our goal is to have 1 error or less. But in the textbook, it tells us to have 10 words a minute for 1 minute with 3 errors or less. But try to do it with 1 error or less and really focus. But that doesn't mean that right now you start looking at your keys because you hear the word timing. You just go ahead and key letter for letter like I showed you, okay? So if I was going to do my timing, I'd look on page 5, J, the 1 minute timing, ASK space, A space, SAD. Again, because you see timing, don't start looking at your keys, okay? You need to keep your eyes on your copy of your key and not look at your keyboard. Another helpful hint is if you want to tape a piece of paper, 8.5, 11 by a piece of paper over your keyboard and put your fingers underneath it, find the F and the J anchors. That keeps your eyes on your copy too. You don't have a temptation of looking down at your keys, okay? Now, what I wanted you to notice there is we have a lesson 1 enrichment. And this is wonderful because you can find, after you do lesson 1, turn to page 6 in your book. What better way than to have a review, okay? So notice it says new key reinforcement. So all I do is I say, okay, I'm going to practice. If I want to do a little bit of practice here with my home row, I can go ahead and do that. Say the A, S, D, F, J, K, L, semicolon. If I'm ready, I'll go to next. What can I do? Lesson 1A enrichment on page 6. Okay, it tells me right here. So make sure you take advantage of doing the exercises in lesson number 1 or any new lesson. Do it as much as you can and do the lesson 1 enrichment. It's not part of the grading part, but it sure will help you. It will help you to realize whether or not you know your keys before you go to lesson 2. So I can't stress enough. Those of you that have had a lot of keyboarding before, you'll probably go through lesson number 1. Just make sure you're not looking at your keys, and then you'll be ready to go to lesson 2. But if not, then go back and practice lesson number 1 again and make sure that you do that lesson 1 enrichment. Now before I'd go into lesson 2, make sure that, again, like I said, practice it again. If you notice that, say for an example, tomorrow I was going to go back in, I might say, okay, I think I'm ready for lesson 2, but I'm going to do the lesson 1 enrichment just as a review. Okay, so I'd go into the lesson 1 enrichment and I'm going to say, okay, I'm ready to go on to lesson 2. So I'm going to go to lesson 2 now just to show you what it will be like. For lesson number 2, you're going to have your warm-up, and this gives you an actual warm-up so you can get your fingers warmed up on page 7, okay? Even though your fingers may be warmed up, you still need to do it because it's part of your assignment, okay? And then we have our new key procedure, all right, giving us all the information on that. And I'm going to go right into the E key, just for demonstration purposes. For the E, you're going to reach up with your D finger. Now when you're practicing, notice when you say it to yourself or say it out loud, E, go back to the D. E, go back to the D. Don't just stay there and press E, 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 because you need to learn the reach. Okay, so D, go up to E, go back to the D. E, D, E, D. Okay? The next one is the N key. The N key, you're going to reach down with your J finger. So it's N, N, N. N, go back to the J. N, go back to the J. And remember I told you you can practice. Like if I was going to practice the N, I'd say it to myself, or I'm going to say it out loud for our purposes. N, go back to the J. N, N, go back to the J. N, go back to the J. Okay? And then the T key, you're going to reach up with your F finger. So it's T, T, T. Go ahead and practice that a few times. Okay? And then as far as lesson number 2, remember you would go back to your Blackboard and make sure that you do everything under lesson 1 and lesson 2, and then don't forget to do your information sheet right in Blackboard. Okay? So for our purposes here, I've given you an overview, and for future recordings, I'll be explaining some of the other things up here as far as the icons. Now it's going to be very important. Make sure that you practice, practice, practice daily. Keep your eyes on your copy as you key, and do not look at your keys. Okay, it's going to be very, very important. Look at your textbook. And if you need to contact me anytime, please contact me through the email, pronto, or you can call me. Thank you for listening, and have yourself a nice day. Remember, practice daily. Bye.